We have with us a man who has already proven he can keep our country strong. However, and for Canadians, this is vital, he has also proven that he will take decisive action to keep Canada safe, to keep Canadians safe. He's here this morning to make an important announcement about support for Canadian families. Ladies and gentlemen, he's the leader we need to keep Canada strong and moving forward. So please, rise and join me in welcoming the Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honourable Stephen Harper.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for that warm Mississauga welcome. Friends, Jagdish, let me first begin by introducing Jagdish to all of you. Also, he is a journalist. He is a small business owner who founded and now publishes a daily newspaper for his community. I got to know him back when he joined our official visit to India nearly 3 years ago, and I can tell you this, through his newspaper and his radio show, he urges all those who come to this country to embrace the values of freedom, of democracy, of tolerance, and respect, the things that make our country such a great place to live for everybody. And friends, now it is time for Jagdish to represent those values to a larger stage and to a wider audience, and I know you're all going to work hard to send Jagdish Grewal to Ottawa as the next Member of Parliament. Mississauga, welcome. And friends, I know Jagdish already introduced all of our other candidates, but so many of them have joined us here today. Let's give them all one more big hand that says to them we are going to work hard and we are going to make sure we elect them on October the 19th as well. Chers amis, comme je l'ai déjà dit, cette élection porte sur la sécurité de notre économie et la sécurité de notre pays. As I've said before, this election is about the security of our economy and the security of our country. C'est un choix sur quel parti, quelle équipe a le leadership, l'expérience qui fait ses preuves pour assurer la sécurité des Canadiens et des Canadiennes et la force de notre économie. It's a choice of which team, which party has the leadership, the proven experience in an ever more dangerous world to keep us safe and keep our economy moving forward. International markets seem to remind us almost daily that we are living in times of global economic instability. The fall of oil and commodity prices, turbulence in the economic and financial markets in China, the ongoing European debt crisis, it is something different every day. And all of these things do create real challenges that affect our country, as they have before. But friends, the fact of the matter is this, through the ups and downs, due to our policies, this country has been and will continue to be an island of stability. The Canadian economy has grown. We learned from Statistics Canada last week that it is growing once again. And the Canadian economy will grow for the 7th straight year in a row. And it has, among all this turmoil, friends, because we have a long-term plan, a low-tax plan for job and growth, and we have been sticking to it. Our economic action plan, that is why, through all of the turmoil in the global financial system, Canada has the strongest, most stable banking and financial sector in the entire world. That's That's why we have by far the lowest debt burden in the G7, and years ahead of most other developed countries, we have returned to a balanced budget at the national level in Canada. And in case you didn't catch it, for the first 3 months of this year, we're actually well ahead of projections. We have a $5 billion surplus for the first 3 months of this year. Our economic action plan, that is why the Canadian economy has been growing steadily creating jobs for the past 6 years. And why? Since the end of the global financial crisis, Canada's economy has created nearly 1.3 million net new jobs, 1.3 million more people working today in Canada than then. That is the best job creation record in the G7. Economic action plan, that's why to encourage growth and employment, we have lowered taxes for individuals, for families, and for job-creating businesses, because we, as Conservatives, know that your money belongs to you, not to the bureaucracy in Ottawa. You know, and I could name them all, from income splitting for our pensioners and our families, to our universal child care benefit, to the tax-free savings accounts, from the GST, the cut to the GST, the 2 cuts to the GST, to the home renovation tax credit, to the children's fitness tax credit, all of these things and more. That's why Canada has the lowest federal tax burden in over half a century. Economic action plan, that is why we have been concluding trade agreements with Europe, with the Americas, and now with countries in Asia. When we came to office, Canada had trade agreements with only 5 other countries in the entire world. Today we have trade agreements with 44 countries, representing over half of the global economy. Economic action plan, that is why we are building the national infrastructure. In fact, our government is investing in the decade to come over some $80 billion in Canada's infrastructure, in things such as Smart Track, Mississauga's bus rapid transit corridor, the Mississauga's Celebration Square. I could go on. There are many others. Friends, if you look at it across the country, we increased the infrastructure funding levels 3 times that of the previous government, and we are now pursuing the longest, largest, most ambitious national infrastructure investment by any federal government in the history of this country. We are not stopping there. We are continuing to implement our economic action plan to create jobs and growth. I've been making announcements in this campaign about affordable, effective investments we're making in our long-term prosperity, which brings me to what I want to talk about here today. On the day when many parents are taking their kids back to school for the first day of the school year. One investment we make as families that does pay off over a lifetime is the investment we make in our children's education. Many Canadian families make it a priority to give their kids a running start in life. Many more would like to do so. And these are sacrifices that our Conservative government wants to support. By consistently cutting taxes and putting money back in the pockets of Canadians, our Conservative government has made it easier to save for a child's education. In addition, with our government's new Canada Student Grants, reforms we've made to the Canada Student Loan Program, and tax relief for scholarship funding for the cost of textbooks, we have provided significant assistance to young Canadians pursuing a post-secondary education. These programs alone have made Canada a world leader in terms of post-secondary educational attainment. We have one of the best records in the world on post-secondary educational attainment. Et j'annonce aujourd'hui que pour aider les parents à enseigner pour l'éducation de leurs enfants, un gouvernement conservateur réélu va améliorer les régimes enregistrés d'épargne-études en doublant les subventions fédérales aux familles à revenus faibles et moyens, I'm pleased to announce that to make it easier for parents to save for their children's education, a re-elected Conservative government will double the federal grants to low and middle-income families for their registered education savings program. The RESP program has been tremendously popular. Canadian families hold some $45 billion in RESP accounts. Last year alone, over 2.5 million children received a matching federal grant. The increase to the government's RESP contributions that I'm announcing today will provide up to $2,200 per student in addition to government support to those who need it the most. Friends, this is important. Once again, this is an important, but it is an affordable commitment. Et vous savez que quand nous, les conservateurs, prenons un tel engagement parce que c'est abordable, nous tenons parole. And you know that when we conservatives make such a commitment, because it is affordable, we will deliver on that commitment. Now, friends, as I said earlier, the choice in this election could not be more clear and more important. L'autre choix dans cette élection, le NPD et les libéraux font des promesses de dizaines de milliards de dollars de l'argent qu'ils n'ont pas, de l'argent qu'ils peuvent obtenir seulement, en accusant des déficits permanents et en haussant vos taxes et vos impôts. Liberals and the NDP are making tens of billions of dollars of spending promises, money they do not have, money they can get only through running permanent deficits and raising your taxes. It is a recipe in an unstable world to kill jobs and put our economy at risk. Sous notre gouvernement conservateur, nous avons un budget équilibré, des impôts plus bas, des investissements ciblés, abordables, efficaces, plus de dépenses pour la santé, l'éducation, l'infrastructure et pour la prestation pour les familles et les aînés. Under our conservative government, we have a balanced budget. We have a balanced budget with lower taxes, with targeted, affordable investments, with more spending on health care, education, infrastructure, more for benefits for families and seniors, like the ones I'm announcing today. And that's why there are no better economic fundamentals, there are no better economic prospects, and there is no better place to be. That's our conservative record, and that's the course Canada must stay on. So friends, on October 19th, let's work hard, make the right choice for our economic security and our national security, and keep this country on track. Thank you for being here. Merci beaucoup.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
I guarantee your success by His grace Almighty.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Prime Minister will now take questions from the media. When I call your name, please come up to the microphone here to my right. We'll begin with Catherine Cullen, CBC, please.
Hi there, sir. I wanted to ask you about Syrian refugees. You know that there's been a desire expressed by some provinces, municipalities to bring people in quickly. There's also been a discussion about whether or not we could send Canadian officials to the refugees, be they in camps or whatnot, and do the security screening there, because I know that's something you're concerned about. How far would that go towards satisfying your concerns about security? And can you please answer the question en français aussi, s'il vous plaît?
Look, I'll just repeat what I've been saying all along. This government has already announced, prior to the latest round of headlines, we announced our intention to bring more Syrian and Iraqi refugees to this country. We've already brought some 23,000. We're looking to bring more, and we are looking to improve the process. Let me be clear at the same time. We are going to to make sure that we are selecting the most vulnerable bona fide refugees, obviously with a focus on the religious and ethnic minorities that are the most vulnerable. And when we are dealing with people who are from, in many cases, a terrorist war zone, we are going to make sure that we screen people appropriately and the security of this country is fully protected. Répéter, même avant les manchettes récentes, ce gouvernement a annoncé notre intention d'avoir plus de réfugiés de la région de l'Irak et de la Syrie. Nous avons déjà accepté plus de 23 000 personnes et nous avons fait un engagement de faire plus et d'améliorer le processus. Notre intention et d'assurer que nous avons comme priorité des personnes les plus vulnérables, des vrais réfugiés, surtout des minorités religieuses et ethniques qui sont les plus vulnérables. Et parce qu'on parle ici des personnes d'une zone de combat terroriste, on va assurer une vérification qui va protéger tout le temps la sécurité des Canadiens et des Canadiennes.
Katie Simpson, CTV.
Good morning, Mr. Harper. The polls show that it appears the wheels are falling off your campaign, and there is blame being pointed at Jenny Byrne, saying that she's been in charge of poor strategy, that she's done a sloppy job in vetting candidates, and that she's hired an inexperienced war room. Does Jenny Byrne still have your confidence? And if she did offer her resignation, would you accept it?
Well, I'm not going to dignify those kinds of stories with a response, and as you know, I don't comment on polls. What I will say is this. I think the polls will serve to focus the mind. Obviously, we are fighting for, and we believe there will be a Conservative government. But the reality is that this is a real choice for Canadians, and an NDP government or a Liberal government are real possibilities. They are telling us, they will grow the economy, they will grow jobs, and they will grow the middle class by raising taxes and running permanent deficits. That is their pitch to Canadians. That is the swampland they are trying to sell us. We know the reason this economy is growing, the reason we are creating jobs, and the reason our middle class is strong is because we have a low-tax, balanced budget plan for jobs and growth, and that's the choice we believe Canadians should stay on.
Chanda McCharles, Toronto Star, please.
Good morning. I was interested in your comments in the interview last night where you talked about people who worked for Nigel Wright not being held responsible by you, that he was the one who made the decisions, something you've repeated often. I've been curious, though. Senator Gerstein did not work for Nigel Wright. The RCMP says that he knew of Nigel Wright's decision to pay personally. After Gerstein backed off paying party funds of $32,000, he later suggested to Nigel Wright perhaps he could claim $60,000 in expenses he had foregone previously to help cover Duffy's payment. Why is it that you do not regard Senator Gerstein's actions and approach in this as improper, if not a betrayal, as you do regard Nigel Wright's actions?
Well, look, I've been very clear on what the facts are in this matter. There is one person on trial. That is Mr. Duffy because, well, for various reasons, he's on trial for various things, but in my judgment, he took money that could not be justified, and I had told him to pay that money back. Mr. Wright was aware I had told him to pay that money back, and they both told me that money had been paid back, and it had not been paid back due to the actions of Mr. Wright, and those are the two people who are responsible. Those are the two people who are responsible.
Jennifer Ditchburn from the Canadian Press, please.
Thank you. Mr. Harper, just to follow up on my colleague's question about Senator Gerstein, he told police that he approached an independent audit firm to get information about an independent audit. That's what he told the RCMP. Mr. Wright said during the trial that it was Senator David Tkachuk
that wanted to pull Mr. Duffy secretly from an independent audit. Now, neither of those two men, these two grown men in the Senate, are subordinates to Nigel Wright. So are we to get from your response that you're A-okay with what those senators were doing behind the scenes?
I will just point out that the audit firm itself has attested to the propriety of the audit. That's their responsibility, and this is a matter for the Senate. In terms of the facts that are before me, the people responsible for Mr. Duffy not repaying his bogus expense claims are Mr. Duffy and Mr. Wright.
We'll conclude this morning with Laura Stone from Global News, please.
Good morning. Thanks for taking our questions. We're hearing from some candidates in the GTA that voters are willing to support whichever party takes on the Conservatives. And if no party wins a majority, an Ipsos poll conducted for Global News shows the majority of correspondents want the Liberals and NDP to work together to form a government. Is it legitimate for parties with the majority of seats to form government? Would your party respect that decision or try to stop it?
You know, my view is that the party that wins the most seats in our system forms the government. That's always been my view. I've always lived by that, and I hope that party is us. And I'll tell you why it should be us. Because on the other side, both the parties, the Liberal government or an NDP government, will mean for Canadians dramatically higher taxes, and it will mean large and permanent deficits. That is a recipe that will kill our economy, that will put our jobs and our retirement in jeopardy and throw us off track and onto the track of all the other economies around the world that have been failing over the past 7 years. We want to make sure this country stays on track with a balanced budget, low tax plan. That's what has got us this far. That's why Canada has great prospects, and that's why we need a Conservative government.
Thank you, Prime Minister.